They blame me for a mistake I didn't make. Now I'm their boss.
Have you ever felt like a victim of a great injustice, condemned for something you didn't do? As if your whole life was being destroyed by a lie? This is the story of a man who, in the midst of the darkness of a false accusation, found the strength to not only defend himself, but to rewrite his own story. Asterisk, a story of overcoming, faith, and transformation. In the next few minutes, you will follow the journey of someone who had his honor taken away, but did not give in to defeat. Asterisk, the truth, as always, has its own time to emerge, and he was the protagonist of this silent struggle. Asterisk, if you have ever faced a moment of crisis, you know how essential the fight for the truth and the recovery of your inner peace are. And if you identify with this story, if your fight is also about regaining what is rightfully yours, subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. Asterisk, with each video, we seek to bring more light, more faith, and more transformation. Asterisk, now, get ready to live with him. One of the greatest tests of faith and character that anyone can face. It was an ordinary morning. One of those where everything seems to go on as usual. Asterisk, until it doesn't anymore. He arrived early for work, as he had done for years, with his worn-out briefcase from so many days lived, and the same silent commitment he always had, to do his best. But that morning, something was strange. Asterisk, the looks on people's faces were different. The shy smiles were gone. Asterisk, an uncomfortable silence spread through the company's corridors like a thick fog, the kind that announces storms. A little later, he was called to the boardroom. He found it strange this never happened without warning. Asterisk, inside, 3 managers were sitting, papers on the table, and a serious tone in the air. Asterisk. One of them looked him straight in the eye and said, "We need to talk about a serious problem. The data in the latest financial report points to manipulation, and all the evidence points to you." For a moment, everything stopped. The floor seemed to disappear. He blinked a few times, not understanding. Asterisk. What do you mean? Manipulation? Me? His heart was racing, but he tried to keep his composure. Asterisk. This must be a mistake. I would never do something like that, he replied with a choked voice, trying to understand where it was coming from. Asterisk. But no one there seemed willing to listen to him. They had already judged him, convicted him. All that was missing was the signature. The silence of the others was crueler than the accusation itself. Asterisk. It was as if everything he had built with so much effort was crumbling, and he didn't even have the right to explain himself. He left that room stunned, feeling as if he was carrying an impossible weight to bear. That injustice cut him to pieces inside, because it wasn't just about a mistake. Asterisk. It was about honor, dignity, and years of dedication being thrown away because of a lie. He still didn't know how to prove his innocence, but something inside him told him that this story was far from over. The impact of the accusation spread quickly throughout the office. Asterisk, his colleagues, who were once people with whom he shared laughter and casual conversations, now avoided him with suspicious looks. Asterisk. It's as if an invisible wall has been erected between him and the others. The atmosphere in the workplace, which had always been friendly and collaborative, has now become tense and icy. Asterisk. He feels every step he takes being watched, every word he says being analyzed and reinterpreted. In the cafeteria, a group of colleagues whisper in a corner, not caring that he can hear. Asterisk. The weight of their judgment is unbearable. He tries to maintain his composure, pretending that nothing has changed, but deep down, he feels the weight of rejection and injustice. Asterisk. The jokes that were once harmless now become painful jabs, and every gesture of indifference is like a reminder of his downfall. Isolation becomes a heavy burden. Asterisk. He tries to seek solace, but even at home, the environment seems to be in shock at the situation. His wife, who has always been his greatest support, now also feels the weight of the pressure. Asterisk. He realizes that it is not only he who is suffering, but everyone around him. Asterisk. His daughter's gaze, full of innocence, makes him question what happened to the man he was before the accusation. But amidst the shadows of this growing rejection, he notices a faint light. A discreet colleague, someone who had always been quiet, begins to approach him. This colleague, someone from whom he would never have expected support, begins to show signs of trust. He becomes the only one who does not treat him as guilty, the only one who believes in his innocence. Deep down, he knows that this man's help could be the key to changing the course of things. But will it be enough? He needs more than words of comfort. He needs action. He needs evidence to prove what everyone insists on denying. The weight of the situation begins to become unbearable. Each day that passes seems harder than the last. He wakes up every morning with a tight stomach, knowing that it will be another day of suspicious looks, another opportunity to see his life and reputation being silently torn apart. The pressure of trying to prove his innocence begins to turn into an immense emotional burden. He finds himself faced with a fork in the road. Follow the path of acceptance, admit his guilt, and try to rebuild himself in a world where his honor will forever be questioned, or fight with all his strength, risking losing everything to prove what is true. At night, he sits alone at his desk, staring into the darkness of the apartment. His worried wife tries to talk to him, but he feels that her words cannot reach the depth of what he is facing. He feels alone, surrounded by a deafening silence. The pain of being misunderstood is stronger than any external accusation. But deep down, he knows that giving in to the pressure is not an option. If he does, he will have surrendered not only to the lie, but also to the fear of fighting for what is right. And more than that, he will be accepting that his life will be defined by a mistake he did not make. It is then that he makes a decision that will change the course of his life. He will not give up. He will fight. The doubt begins to disappear, replaced by a silent and firm determination. He feels that, although the path ahead is full of uncertainty, this is the only choice he has left. He decides to seek the truth, not only to clear his name, but to restore his own dignity. He knows that he will need courage, that he will need to go beyond what he thinks is possible. But something inside him awakens, an inner strength, a belief that, despite everything, there is still hope, and that this fight will be the beginning of something much greater than he ever imagined. Time passes, and while everyone around him seems to have forgotten about justice, he continues, silently, to search for answers. He distances himself from his daily concerns and focuses on a single goal, finding the truth. For weeks, he walks the company's corridors, reviews documents, talks to former employees, and examines every minute detail that might serve as a clue. And no matter how hard he tries, the truth continues to slip through his fingers, like fine sand, until one day, without warning, the key piece appears. An anonymous recording of a conversation between two superiors. A message that makes it clear that he is being used as a scapegoat to cover up a bigger mistake committed by someone higher up. At first, he can't believe what he's hearing. His heart races as he listens to the words on the audio, the voices, the speeches that confirm the lie that dragged him there. It's as if a curtain has been lifted before his eyes, and what seemed like a labyrinth with no way out now reveals itself as a conspiracy scenario. Anger surges hot and sure, but he knows that the journey is far from over. The truth is within his reach, but he needs to be very careful. Such a huge turn of events cannot be thrown into the light of day without due precautions. His enemy is now stronger and more calculating than he ever imagined. With the audio in hand, he seeks out his ally, that colleague who believed in him from the beginning. Together, they begin to devise a plan to expose the truth without exposing their own risks. But with each step, he feels the weight of his decision grow. He can't turn back now, but he also knows that the road ahead will be long and difficult. he will need to be much more cunning than he ever imagined. And more than ever, he must trust in his faith. Asterisk something inside him whispers, the truth is stronger than any lie, and sooner or later it always finds its way. After weeks of constant pressure, the emotional weight finally seems to be taking a break. With the tests in hand, he decides to take a step back, away from the work environment to reflect and organize the next steps. What once seemed like an endless path now becomes an opportunity to start over. He feels the relief of being away from the immediate pressure, but also the anguish that the battle is not yet won. This period of separation, which at first seemed like a simple escape, ends up becoming a crucial time for his personal reconstruction. In the hours he is alone, he begins to question who he has truly become during this crisis. He has always been a man of principles, but what he has learned during these dark days is that integrity is not just a choice. It is a daily battle, a reflection of who you are when no one is looking. He reflects on the values that have guided him up until that moment: faith, honesty, and commitment to his family. Sometimes life tests us in ways we cannot control, but it is in the response to these tests that we find our true strength. He realizes that his fight is not just to clear his name, it is to become the best version of himself. Asterisk. As he dedicates himself to this process of self-discovery, he begins to rebuild something that seemed lost: hope. He regains his faith, not in a religious way, but as a reminder that there is always a greater purpose behind difficult times. He begins to understand that every challenge, no matter how painful, carries with it a lesson, and he is ready to learn. The nights of anguish, the silent tears, all of this now becomes fuel for a new beginning. He realizes that no matter what happens, he will never be the same again. The decisive moment arrives. After weeks of preparation, he knows that he can no longer postpone the truth. The tension that has built up within him now pushes him forward. He calls a meeting with his superiors, the same ones who have wrongly accused him, the same ones who, until now, have never given him a chance to defend himself. He enters the conference room with a firm posture, but his heart is pounding inside his chest. The room is full, but he doesn't see them. His eyes are fixed on the papers, the evidence, the thing that will be the key to his redemption. As the boss and other directors watch him, he feels the weight of all their gazes. But instead of feeling fear, he feels a calm, as if something inside him already knew that this moment was inevitable. He begins to speak clearly, exposing what really happened, pointing out the manipulation, the failure of those who used him as a scapegoat. The silence in the room is dense, almost palpable. He speaks with the truth as his only ally, and the words unfold with unexpected force. The truth is like a sharp blade, cutting through the lies that were wrapped in their every word. He feels a mixture of anger and relief as he sees the expressions of his superiors change. The apologies that never came before now seem forced, and he knows they are no longer enough to repair the damage done. But he doesn't want revenge. He wants justice. He wants to see the people responsible for what happened to him pay for their actions. But more importantly, he wants to restore his honor. He knows that no matter what happens after this meeting, nothing will ever be the same. The truth has been told, and now he feels lighter. He is no longer the man they tried to silence. While the others talk amongst themselves, trying to digest the revelation, he stands his ground, silent but not defeated. Something inside him finally ignites, and he realizes that the fight for the truth is not just about clearing his name, but about regaining his self-esteem, his confidence, and his inner peace. Time passes, and the pressure on him begins to diminish. However, the true impact of this struggle goes beyond the simple victory in an internal process. Even without an immediate public acquittal, he feels the strength of something that cannot be underestimated: moral victory. It is not the sign letter with a formal apology that will heal the wounds, but the respect he regains by standing firm, by not allowing himself to be consumed by anger or the desire for revenge. He finally understands the value of integrity, self-control, and courage in times of adversity. The recognition he receives from some people who had previously distanced himself, from colleagues who are beginning to see him in a different light, is worth more than any formal victory. He realizes that, even though the system still has flaws and injustices, true justice is that which begins within us the moment we decide not to compromise who we are, regardless of the situation. He understands that his peace of mind and his honor do not depend on the opinion of others, but on what he knows to be true about himself. Most importantly, the experience gives him a new perspective on the people around him. His relationships with his family deepen. His wife, who had previously shown support, now sees him with even greater admiration. They share a renewed complicity, and he feels more connected than ever to his children, who now look at him with quiet respect. He knows that, even though life continues to be full of challenges, the example he set in his struggle will be the greatest lesson for those he loves most. He feels stronger, more centered, and at the same time, more humble. He is no longer the same man who entered this whirlwind. Something has changed inside him. Overcoming, forgiving himself, and maintaining integrity, even when the world seemed to be against him, have made him grow in ways he never imagined. Victory does not lie in destroying his enemies, but in building a new path where he can finally be free and true to himself. With the truth exposed and the struggle finally bearing fruit, he finds himself facing a new reality. The time he spent seeking redemption has not only restored his honor, but has also shaped him in ways he could not have foreseen. He begins to realize that the adversities he faced were not just a test of his character, but a preparation for something greater. He had been tested, but now he is stronger, more aware of his purpose, and above all, more connected to what really matters. The ability to overcome life's challenges without losing the essence of what makes him who he is. As his confidence grows, he begins to be noticed in a different way. Colleagues who previously avoided him begin to see in him something more than just a survivor of a crisis. He begins to be recognized for his integrity and courage. His natural leadership begins to shine, and he is called to higher positions, closer to what he always dreamed of. The professional advancement that once seemed a distant possibility begins to become a reality. More than just a boss, he becomes someone people trust and look to as an example. However, his rise is not only professional. In his personal life, he also experiences a renewal. His relationship with his wife, previously marked by the tension of the crisis, is now stronger. They learn to value what they have even more, knowing that the storm has passed, but the lessons that have remained are valuable. Together they build a new chapter, more united, more solid. But looking back, he realizes that the greatest transformation was not the victory over his enemies, nor the professional rise, but the inner growth. He learned to forgive himself, to be patient, to understand that true victory lies in the ability to get up after a fall, to rebuild oneself from the wounds, and to move forward with one's head held high. He now knows that, even if life challenges him again, he will be more prepared than ever. In the end, true victory lies not in the fight against others, but in the achievement of our inner peace. This man, who was once unjustly accused, not only got back on his feet, but transformed his life and his way of seeing the world. He proved that, regardless of the difficulties, there is always a chance to start over and find strength that we didn't even know existed within us. Have you ever been through something that tested your faith and resilience? What would you do if you were in his shoes? Sometimes the answer is not in overcoming others, but in overcoming ourselves and moving forward. If you were touched by this story, like it, share it with someone who also needs this message, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Together, we will continue in search of stories that touch the soul and transform lives. ****